Welcome to Saturday versus Sunday. I'm Jeff Dover. With me is John Barbin. Let's talk football.
All right, we're going to talk the remaining games of the wildcard weekend. We started off with the Saturday games on our previous show, and now we're going to just finish off with the Sunday games and the Monday game. And we'll just take them in chronological order. We'll start with the Bills and the Broncos.
Yep. What was your thought about the game?
Well, my very first note is, boy, do the Bills look scary with a good run game.
Yeah, that's a great note. Yeah,
that is a scary looking team. If they can put up 200 yards rushing, is that the best rushing performance of the whole year? It's got to be close.
It's for the Buffalo, maybe, or
yeah, that's what I mean.
Most of the playoff games, that was really good too, because that's sort of been
it was the most in all the playoff games. For sure.
It's a characteristic that everyone's.
The Ravens put up a ridiculous number.
Yeah. But no, that was you're absolutely right. They've always been. Allen has been really dynamic the last little bit. They've had enough people to throw to.
Yeah.
He makes stuff happen. But when you pair that with an effective running game, it's really, my note was like, they're really rounding into form. Like, this looks like a championship team playing right now. Like, I'd feel
peaking at the right time.
The defense looks really good, and then the offense looked unstoppable. So I don't know what else you want. Denver's a good team. Denver was a hot team coming in and played really well going into it. And it's not like I wouldn't say like they played poorly, but Buffalo was just the way better team in pretty much all facets of the game here. So,
yeah. I mean, the Broncos had that kind of quick strike opening drive with the long pass. I had a Bronco fan text me just saying, Bo effing Nix. And then I thought by the end of the game, he might text effing Bo Nix. Like,
Well, it was 31 unanswered points.
So unanswered.
After that first drive, and Buffalo held them to 224 yards and 13 first downs. And how much of that was that first drive? Right.
Oh, yeah. Like, so it was 70 yards. So I have a note here saying after that first drive, the stat line for Broncos is 154 yards for the rest of the game after that drive, 0 points and 16 minutes of possession.
Yeah. No,
it was 40. The time of possession was just brutal, like 40-20. After that one drive, the Broncos were a non-factor for the entire rest of the game.
Yeah.
And the Bills dominated them every which way you could possibly slice this up. Now, interestingly, Bo Nix didn't really get sacked much. He kind of avoided
twice,
that.
I think.
Yeah. It's not like we've seen some other brutal ones this weekend, but he was okay with that. And it's not like it was wild bunch of turnovers or anything. It was just completely suffocating. It was just to a man on both sides of the ball. The Bills were just on top of them, the running game, passing game on the Bills offense, and then on the Bills defense. After that one drive, the Broncos couldn't really do anything.
Nope. No, it was a dominant. I was really struck by the defense. That's the best I've seen Buffalo's defense look. The Denver has been playing well recently, as we talked about. Bo Nix is a good QB. I think he's played significantly better in the second half, but it was a suffocating defense and a very effective offense. They're rounding into form.
Yeah, and they've got some key players back on the Bills. I specifically had thought at one point Matt Milano ran down, I think it was Nix on the sideline, and I just remember thinking, oh man, they really needed him back. Before he got injured with all of those injuries, that guy was top 3 linebacker. I mean, he was that good. And when he went down, I thought, oh no, like that's a serious piece. And I guess all your best teams do have good linebacker presence, but he's way up there.
Yeah.
And now that he's back, even with his, whatever the thing is he has on his arm, it just makes a difference when your key players are back. And that team is rounding, like you said, rounding into form. And the defense, like Epinez is good. Rousseau's good. There's still a little bit left in the tank with Von Miller. Ed Oliver's a total beast.
Oh, he always has been.
Yeah,
5-star recruit.
Houston.
He's been an amazing defensive tackle his whole life.
He reminds me of Aaron Donald. He's smaller, but like super powerful, and just whatever his moves are, whatever he's got going on there, he's just sort of like the next version, kind of a step down, but the same mold of Aaron Donald.
Yep, for sure. No, and it's at Buffalo is a really tough place to play in the playoffs. So that was because it was a great environment, and that they really thrive off of that. And no, it was. I mean, I wouldn't say it was a great game to watch because it was really dominated by Buffalo. Blowout. Yeah. But it was, if you're a Buffalo fan, next week can't come soon enough.
Right. And for Broncos fans, that's a hell of a season with Bo Nix.
Yeah.
I mean,
still excited for next year.
For sure, all arrows are pointing up. What did they say? That was the first Broncos rookie QB to actually start a playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
So they've never drafted somebody who's actually played as a rookie and made it all the way to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh wait, I guess
Tebow.
How does Tebow fit into that? Because that's what they just.
Well, he might not have been drafted by him. He might have been.
No, weren't they? I don't know.
know.
That's the stat they put up, and then now that we're thinking about it, isn't that Tebow?
I don't know.
I don't know. They said something like that, but either way, good for Bo Nix.
So the Philly Green Bay game was also not very, it was I guess technically closer score, but never felt like it was in doubt.
Yeah, man, Jordan Love just throwing the game away. Okay, so one of my notes, I actually put Jordan Love feels bad for the Eagles' lack of pass game, so he figured he'd just throw them a few passes. He just played bad.
Yeah.
But this, for Eagles fans, they can't feel good with how bad this pass game really looks. Like the complaints or whatever. We've had Eagles fans message us earlier in the season saying they don't think Jalen Hurts is it, and they think he's kind of just holds the ball, run around, like the worst of Jalen Hurts sort of thing. And this game doesn't inspire any confidence with how he plays. Now his escapability seems to be all the way back. I think last year he was struggling with some amount of mobility with all the injuries. Yeah. Now he looks like full mobile Jalen Hurts, where he's like really slippery and can get away like all the time. But also his detractors are some of the Eagles fans that aren't thrilled about him, are thinking in terms of, okay, so he just reverts to running. So he's he's the Alabama Jalen Hurts that got replaced with Tua, is what some of them are thinking. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I know that some of Philly fans have told us in messages, they're like, no, he ain't it. Like we need more Burrow and less of that. Like more passing and finding your actual reads.
Yeah. So traditionally in football, you run the ball. You want to do that because it's less turnovers usually than in passing. You can control the ball. You can force the other defense to stay on the field. And then you do that to open up the passing game. Yes. And then you can have a dynamic passing game. They seem to be running the ball and then they pass just enough to keep the defense honest. And then because it's not a dynamic passing game.
Not at all.
And so it feels conservative. It feels like they're normally like with Mahomes or Allen, when everything is covered, then they'll run and it'll be really effective then.
Yeah.
And it's not quite like that here. This feels more like one read and then I'll run a bit and then we'll just give it to Barkley again. And so it's really not opening up the passing game.
Like,
and some of the passing, like you said, it's missing or it's not very interesting, as you can tell when some of the wide receivers are reading a novel on the sideline.
What was that? That's my next note. I said AJ Brown reading a book on the sidelines. Is this just him looking for attention?
Yeah,
it must be.
So it was. So I don't know if you saw his response, but it was pretty interesting. He was reading not like a self-help book, but it's sort of like how to excel in sports book. It was originally written for baseball, I believe.
You're right.
And so it's actually like apropos for someone like that to read it. I don't know about in game, but he says that he uses it. He's read before during games. This is the first time he's been caught, and it helps him focus, is what he said. So, which I think is sort of what you have to say at that point, but man, did it not look good. And just as another aside with that book's now #1 on Amazon.
Yeah, I heard. That offer.
No, but anyway,
owes him a commission for that.
Yeah, just come back to the offense. It's just really weird. It's really weird that they have such a good running game that it is not opening up more of the passing. And I don't know if it's Hurts or the scheme they're doing or whatever, but it looks pretty limited. But listen, they're winning games. They're playing really well. The defense is excellent. They had less yards than Green Bay, so that's never a good sign. But it was 4 turnovers to 0. So that you're gonna win a lot of games. You
can't expect all the next teams to just throw the ball away as badly as Love was throwing it away. I know partly it's their defense, but partly that's Love just taking way too many risks.
Yeah.
And the early turnover, is that not okay? So let's finish on the Eagles offense here. The defense is there. The run game is there. Yes. Normally, if you've got those two things, you're so well on your way. But this pass offense is so anemic. When they run up against a more complete team, that's going to be a problem, I think. which is a shame because it just doesn't sound right. You have Devontae Smith, you have AJ Brown, Goddard looked like a beast in that game. Like how is everything there and the pass game looks this bad? Now I guess the Eagles fans who don't like Hurts, they'll just be, well, we've just told you it's Hurts. He can't see, he doesn't see the field. But on the same note, as a non-hardcore Eagle fan, I remember him taking the Chiefs to the wire and should have won the Super Bowl if it weren't for a totally untimely fumble, which again, you can also pin on Hurts, but fumbles are just bad luck. Yeah. But so it looks like this team should be all there but getting outgained by a team that turned it over 4 times. And man, if the Packers just didn't completely get in their own way all game long, this was a close game.
Yes.
If it wasn't for the Packers just literally throwing the game away. So I guess what I'm saying is good for the Eagles for winning, but I'm guessing the Eagles fans do not feel good about how that win looked. And you can get away with that stuff in the regular season, kind of like against the Panthers, like those sort of games. But here that I just can't believe this kind of anemic pass game is just going to keep getting you all the way through to the end.
No, it was 16-10 for Philly in the fourth quarter. Yeah. Right. So Green Bay with 1 touchdown are winning, or will be winning at that point. Do you know what I mean? So that was Green Bay was hung around the whole time, and that's just because Philly wasn't doing as much on offense as they could have. So, and that's with 4 turnovers.
Yeah, I guess we got to
4 turnovers. You should be beating them by 20 points.
20 points, easy.
Yeah.
I guess we should give flowers to Green Bay's defense. I mean, they kept them in this game. That defensive line's got some real juice in it too. Yep. So they kept, and I mean, and
hats off to the defense, because it's always really hard to quickly turn around and go back out there after you've just made a stop and stuff, which would happen after that many turnovers. So
yeah, I mean, that they kept them in there, but man, God love and the last item I had on that opening kick fumble is okay. So I don't clearly understand what targeting is, because that looked like he put his helmet right between the guy's eyes, and Brady's like, "Oh, it's a clean hit." And every time they replayed it, I was like, that's the crown of the helmet, literally right in the middle of that guy's face. Yeah. So either I don't understand targeting. I just don't get it. And I don't care either way, as long as it's consistent. Back when we grew up, that's just a good hit. Yeah. And now, from what I can tell, in most cases, if your helmet hits the other guy's helmet, that's targeting. And if you're gonna be charitable and saying even face mask to face mask, they won't call it. But that was crown of helmet right in the middle of the guy's face.
Yeah, no, and what always frustrates me about that too is when you watch it and the commentator would be something like, "Oh yeah, no, that's a clean hit," and then they'd bring the ref on in the booth and he's like, "No, that was targeting," and then on the field they're like, "No, that was not targeting." And it's when it disagrees with either the commentator or the ref in the booth, it really makes it feel like, oh, this is pretty subjective. Like, it's not consistent.
I don't think anyone even mentioned that was targeting.
Yeah, no, I mean, it did
not look. I don't know. Am I wrong?
No. Not
Philly fans, Green Bay fans, is that not? I mean, regardless if it went for or against your team, is that not the definition of targeting, or does he have to be defenseless? But I don't know. Oh well, it just doesn't make sense to me. Anyways, Good for the Eagles. It's an ugly win. And you know what's weird? They ran for like 170 yards.
Yeah.
Normally,
which is good. They ran for 170 yards. The other team had 4 turnovers, but it was a 1 possession game in the fourth quarter.
And the other team outgained them. I mean, you got the win, but I'm sure they're just not comfortable with how that looked. But last item, one of maybe the coolest plays of the weekend was Goddard's triple stiff arm. I'm not going down. Whatever that was.
Stiff arm, and keep pumping his face and get in there. It's amazing.
And afterwards, and I thought this was another dumb commentary by Brady. Afterwards, when they show McKinney talking to the DB who got stiff armed all the way down the field,
right,
and asking him what happened there. It's like, what happened? The guy's 60 pounds heavier than him.
Yeah, you're supposed to grab his arm and fall down at that point, because you're
supposed to. You know how hard that is.
I know, but I'm just
so hard to do.
He's 60 pounds heavier. You're not going to win a shoving match at that point. But when he puts the arm out, you got to grab the arm and go down.
I understand that, but okay. I understand that. That's the only way to do it when he's in good position and has time to plant the stiff arm. That's also way easier said than done.
Yeah, listen, it's easy to sit here, in my
why didn't you just bring him down
studio? Yeah, exactly. It's like, why didn't you call that 4th down play that worked? Like, it's hindsight's always 20/20. But I'm just telling you, like, that's what the instructions is, because you're not going to win a physical shoving match with someone with that much size difference.
No. And the other part, just to finish on that run, the other part is he didn't try to outrun him because he knew he couldn't. But if he stops and if he adjusts and takes the time to just continually, like, kind of give him the stiff arm, he's going to get way further than if he just tries to run, like, faster.
Yeah.
And it was such a smart play by him. It's kind of, it's like, as soon as he caught, he's like, I got one guy. Oh, I'm 100%. I'm taking this guy with me to the end zone. And he just knew he was gonna. It was cool. It was a good play. All right. Moving on chronologically, the only game that was even kind of was close was the Commanders Bucks. I just put Jayden Daniels. Man, does he ever look like Lamar Jackson in everything he does?
He looks really good. I think he looks. I never compared him to Lamar Jackson. He's really poised for a first-year QB.
Yeah,
he's got an amazing his accurate downfield throws are fantastic.
Oh yeah,
he's got a good escapability and scrambling. Like, he's a really good QB. They really hit on this pick. It feels like he was 268 yards in his first playoff game, like, on the road. Like, he was amazing. And even Baker Mayfield was really good too. He's 15 for 18. He was extremely efficient. But it was there's all kinds of good stuff in this game. How good is Mike Evans? That's another one of my notes. Like, he's really good. I love that beef with him and Lassiter, and they're always going at each other, and that's just like two top end people just taking it to each other. I'm really bringing out the best in both of them, is what it feels like. And Evans is awesome. So he's a terrific wide receiver and really hard to stop. And this was a really good game.
I don't know if it was an artifact of just the timing of how I was watching it. I just have a note saying this game looked faster than all the other games.
Yes, very true.
And I also said this game looked more violent. Like, some of the hitting.
That's a good one.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just, again, we're not hardcore fans of any one of these teams. We just love watching football, and just that game looked like it had more violent hits, and just everything felt like it was going a bit quicker. I don't know. Maybe it's just a perception
I think
thing.
That's a great call. I think
Levante David looks like he's just been reborn.
Yes.
I mean, he looked great.
Yes.
And Bucky Irvin's, what a pick. Like, how good is he too?
He's really good.
Right. And then, but when I say Daniels looks like Lamar Jackson, I mean, he runs really smooth.
Yes.
And I think
Long
one of the commentators was saying, but they both have like that. It's not like a really, really like a jittery or twitchy cuts left or right. It's just, there's like a smoothness that they're always, they do a really good job of avoiding getting hit. I don't know, say it that way. Yep. And man, just their movement, especially when they're scrambling is what to me looks so similar. There's nobody else quite looks like these two. And these two look like each other to me, as far as when their ability to run in the open field is, if you just blacked out the uniforms and didn't know which guy it was, they to me look like the same person running.
No, I think, and he's an amazing passer. There was a couple shots to McLaurin that were literally like the defender was right on him, and it was the only place the ball would be there, and it just hit him right in the hand, and it was amazing. He's really,
that whole receiving group was having a day.
Yeah, I think part of this game was faster too. I feel like there was less penalties overall than maybe some of the other games, so I think that helped it as well. But Washington was a complete game. It was 350 yards to Tampa's 284. They had a bit 10 more minutes time of possession. The only thing that's scary if you're a Washington fan is that you hope it doesn't come down to a kick again, because like the kicking game seems kind of iffy. And it was that guy made a 37-yard feel like an adventure, that field goal at the end, right? So that's going to be tough moving forward, because it's their kicks are important in the playoffs, and so relying on that is going to be a bit tough, because that really changes things. Like when your other teams, when they're like it's automatic from 50 yards, right? Like that really changes how many yards you have to get, like just to get into position. And so if you need to be within the 37-yard field goal to even feel semi comfortable with it. That's tough.
Did you see his obsessive compulsive hair adjusting and helmet putting on and off before that last kick?
Mm-hmm.
And Dina was, what is that? And I was like, he sits there all game long, and now he's got to go in and either win the game right here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure most kickers have some degree of OCD. It can't, they maybe can't not have it to be in that. It's such an odd position to be in.
OCD is a strong way of saying it, like a routine before you go out there.
Better.
Is a, you know, because like the hockey goalies are the same thing. Like when you give up a goal, you go through the same routine, like, okay, because you have to be like, okay, starting now, like nothing gets back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
every baseball player in the box, they have their exact before they step in the box routine.
Yeah. So it's the, you know, so I like to, you know, we'll be nice and say
we'll
that, like,
okay, it's
pre thing. No, but it's unique. It's a unique pre-kick routine that looks like he's either going to go to a photo shoot or kick a game-winning field goal.
And I said, after he doinked it in, I said he needed to adjust the hair once more. He didn't quite get enough adjustments in there. You know what? It's a bummer. I really like both of these teams. It's a bummer. It's a bummer that it ended. It was the muffed handoff thing that did it, totally. Which is because it was otherwise. I think that's the only turnover in the whole game.
Yes, it was.
It was just it's just too bad that was. I know. That's what did it. And
it's because you're going to remember that for a while. Like I think they like Tony Romo, the fumbling that field goal that one time that was in the wild card game. Like you just didn't. That never goes away. And like it was at Tampa. They had the ball. Like it's
now good teams. We've said this. Good teams capitalize on mistakes. Like a weaker team might have not. I mean, it's hard not to, but a weaker team could have somehow messed that up. But it's just too bad that. And I don't care which team won that game. It's just too bad that just a simple mistake like that was essentially what really put it away, put them in an impossible position.
That was a really well played game. It was a really well executed game, like you said. It felt more violent, like it was in fast, like you said. It was a really high quality game, and there was the one mistake was the problem, right? So that's
just one. That's all you can get away with.
Really narrow margin of victory in the NFL in the playoffs.
Yeah. Actually, sorry, you can't get away with one mistake in the playoffs.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of mistakes, the Vikings, and Sam Darnold. I have a note here saying Sam Darnold looked like he's regressed to a rookie.
Well, and that was my first question. Was like, you know, what does this mean for Sam Darnold? Because
whatever it means is not good.
2 games ago, it was like we're set with this guy. We could think long term with it, you know, and then all of a sudden against Detroit and LA, it looks like the Sam Darnold from the Jets and we've
lost a starting job.
We've been fans of Darnold all season. We've been applauding his turnaround and how good he's been, but man, did it not look good. Like it really felt like that was the only thing that was missing too from Minnesota was just him, the old Sam Darnold. You know what I mean? Like
I can't believe this is just the Rams coming up with a clever scheme and everyone's covered. You've got Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison out there.
There was a couple throws that looked like he used to make earlier this season, and he wasn't.
He was missing screen passes and swing passes after a while.
Yeah, and there's a couple like throwing on the ground and stuff. So no, it was it was disappointing to see. I know it was. Now my first note was that this looked like an LA Rams game.
Yeah,
even though it was at Arizona, they did a great job with the stadium and the paint on the field and everything. It looked like a Rams game. So hats off to them. It was really impressive, all the stuff that had to happen, like with the planes and the 400 people.
Kudos to the Cardinals organization for getting all that together.
It's super amazing. Like, and it was there's 200 gallons of paint, and it was all the personnel and stuff that has to happen. So like that would
be a good one episode documentary on how they put all that together.
Absolutely. And it was so to do that, and it looked like a Rams game, and they looked like they won a home game, you know. So that was really a great statement for them.
And that's 4 games in a row now that they haven't even given up 10 points.
Oh, good question.
They finished the season. I don't know, maybe if you could pull that up. I know they finished the season. Well, one of the games was 6 points to the Niners. Another one was 9 points to maybe the Jets or something.
Yeah.
So they just have not been giving up points lately, regardless of who's on the other side of the field.
Yeah.
And they did it again here against what we would have thought would be a bit more powerful offense than this.
Yeah.
And the 9 sacks, I mean, Darnold was double, triple, quadruple clutching. He's either seeing ghosts. He's not seeing it when somebody's open and not confident to throw it when somebody seems to be open, which is crazy because he was doing it all year. And now all of a sudden he wouldn't pull the trigger. He would just wait and wait and wait. Then his eyes would go down and then all of it's over. I mean, 9 sacks is not, it's good. It's obviously really good defense, but that's on him. The way it looked, that's on him.
And it also, I thought the way that it looked was that he was turtling earlier and earlier during the sack.
Yes,
so like
it
the
kept
first
getting
couple,
worse.
Yes. So like the last few sacks, the defender was still like a few steps away and he just started to go down.
Yeah.
And that was a tough look. So the very last game was against Seattle where the Rams lost 30-25, which was I think that was a meaningless game.
Oh, no, nobody played. Nobody played in that game.
But the 3 before that, they'd won. They beat Arizona 13-9, beat the Jets 19-9, beat the Niners 12-6. So that was like you said.
So
it was
when all the starters were playing, this is what the games had been looking
like. So it's 4 in a row now, under 10 points they've given up.
Yeah, minus the game with the backups. Stafford was just, I mean, God damn. It's not like they were shooting the lights out necessarily, but it was just so awful on the Vikings offensive side. Now, okay, so Darnold looked really bad. A lot of those sacks are coming. He's holding the ball too long. But on the Rams side, that defensive line is just awesome. Like they hit on so many picks. Like versus those guys are just nuts. Like that.
Yeah.
It felt like after they won the Super Bowl, they had traded enough away that they sort of got their Super Bowl, but the future is going to be a bit of a rebuild. They are starting to look like all they did was reload and rebuild. And that's like landing Nakua, landing Kyron Williams, landing what looks like it's going to be a stellar defensive line for the next decade if these guys stay healthy. So it's just, I guess I just had it in my mind that the trade with the Lions, that was for now on the Rams side, and it's for the Lions' future is what we're seeing. The Lions used a lot of that trade capital to build the team that they have right now. But somehow I look back and all of a sudden the Rams they look amazing with all of these young players. So it looks like a reload.
Yeah. So to me, they've been really inconsistent this year. Like they had a slow start. It looked like at one point we said in our program that they're back like like they did this before where they had a slow start and then then really hit it. But then they had another couple of games that didn't really look right either. So this, to me, the note that I have here is that it seems like now finally they've found their identity. So I think that was their identity on offense is more of a possession type receiving thing. They do a lot of receiver screens or like end arounds type of thing to get them out, like Puka in the perimeter. And then they have just enough running game up the middle to keep the defense honest. And then it's more of a possession type thing for Stafford as opposed to more of the dynamic offense I think they had in the past.
Yeah.
So to me, it's more like really good defense. Don't make a mistake on offense, but they're executing it well, and they have the right personnel at the right places. So and everyone sort of agrees with the identity now, I think. And so because that's what it looked like. It looked like a classic boa constrictor type game. Give up nothing, hold on to the ball, so not risky plays. Like it's those quick passes, the quick, it just gets it out. And, they didn't have a ton of yards, but like there were 0 turnovers. They were never in a bad position in the game.
No. And then, and Stafford, the other dangerous thing about this team, which I know the hype is all about the Lions and can the Eagles get back to the Super Bowl, but the Rams have been there. They've won the Super Bowl. They're the only team left in the NFC with they've got the Super Bowl, a former Super Bowl winning quarterback right there.
Yep.
The Lions don't have that, right? The Eagles don't have that. So now the Lions have a quarterback who's been to the Super Bowl but hasn't completed it. So from that standpoint, you have to take it's a dangerous team. It's like a dangerous team.
That's a good way to put it.
Defense has clearly got better throughout the year. So I guess you could say they're not necessarily playing like rookies anymore. That just looks like an aggressive, like well-coached defensive line. Man, that line's good.
Yeah. 9 sacks for 82 yards lost. That's
Verse. Oh man, Verse.
Yeah.
That guy's
really good.
I think he's going to be, we're going to be talking about him for a long time. And he got 50 whatever 7-yard fumble recovery. Oh, last item. Now, this is going to be controversial, and whoever's actually watching here I'm sure there's going to be strong opinions on either side of that fumble that turned into a incomplete pass where Stafford was being tackled in the pocket, and he just flicked it. Like he flicked it maybe a yard.
Yeah.
And they justified it that Puka Nacua was coming around. It was almost like a shovel pass type play.
Yep.
So I guess it's too subjective. But remember, the guy had his hand on his back, and Stafford's face was like almost all the way down to his knees. And his hand with the ball might have been a foot off the ground. And you could tell he did essentially flick. It's not a pass. It's like a flick.
Yep.
And he gets it maybe a yard forward.
Yep.
How can you not argue that that's at minimum intentional grounding? Because A, he can't even see where he's throwing it. And B, that's not a viable pass. That has a 0% chance of completion. Like in spirit, he's literally just avoiding the sack. That's obviously what he's doing.
Right.
His face is like between his knees. And like, I just don't know why that, if they're going to be so subjective on some of these calls saying, oh, well, there was a receiver in the area, they could also say, and that was not a real pass. Like the intention to pass, to actually complete a pass versus he was 1000% just avoiding the sack by doing this.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's really, the intention is impossible to regulate, right?
Sure it is. That had zero chance of being completed because he couldn't see who he was throwing it to.
Okay. But then when someone does, like a wide receiver does an out and the receiver's right there, or the defender's right there, and then they just throw it high, like out of bounds, that has zero chance of being completed, but it was in the going toward the area of the wide receiver. And so so it's not a penalty. It was just throwing it away.
But I'm saying all of those calls are subjective. So they could have just chosen to call this grounding.
No, but that other, the example I just gave was not, it does, like, in intention, that was never part of it. Like it was intentionally never going to be a completion. Like it was thrown in a way that they had no shot of catching it. And so, but it's not a penalty because there's a receiver in the way and you threw it, like, and you just missed it. So how do you differentiate between just missing someone or intending to hit them?
Because the one you're talking about is not to avoid a sack.
It might have been. It could be.
Well, okay, that's a good point too.
So I mean, it's
I guess either
to me, it was the fact that as soon as Puka was actually coming around, like it was a shovel pass, and the ball went in that area, like in that direction, then they had no choice but to call it an incomplete pass.
By the current rule, yes, it's an incomplete pass. By the spirit of sportsmanship, it's bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to change that would be like making it where it'd be really hard to judge that. But if you purposely throw it out of bounds or something, then that,
I mean, it's put it this way. Anybody watching can tell that's never going to be completed. And it's a desperation move as he's about to get sacked. Yeah.
I feel like we see Mahomes do stuff like that, and it does get completed every now and then. So
when he can't see, I mean, I
don't know, but he's done stuff like that.
You're right. It's subjective. It just, I'm not even saying it should have been a fumble. I'm just saying it should have been grounding. He should have lost the yards because it was just so blatantly, obviously, not a zero chance of completion.
It was a huge call. Like that was like call. It really, with Minnesota scoring at that point versus, No,
it wasn't a fumble. He clearly released it on purpose. It's just, I don't know. To the non-educated football fan who can dissect it the way you did, saying no, but by the rule, the guy was in the area, he threw it for all of that stuff. But Dino looks at it saying, well, that's bullshit. And it's like, it's like, oh yeah, right. That's clearly he's just getting rid of it. So whatever.
Did you just call me an uneducated fan? Did you?
I called Dina an educated fan. She's not here though. So
okay.
So she doesn't. I hope she doesn't watch this episode.
You're not wrong. Some people have called me that too. But listen, I've watched football a long time. I know that if there's a receiver in the area and the ball's going forward, you're never going to win that argument.
Yeah. So that to me, that play looks like in basketball where you jump and induce a guy hitting you, and then you just flick the ball at the basket, and it has zero chance of going in, but you get to the foul line.
Yeah,
that's to me is the same thing here. It's not. It's within the rule of the game. But it's not sportsmanlike. That's a bullshit way to do that. So anyways,
Yeah, so the Rams win. They look really good. Same thing. I'd be nervous about playing them next week. You can come into our next show when we talk about our preview for the playoffs next weekend. But that they're playing really well. They're gonna be tough to beat.
They look tough, and the arrow's actually pointing up for that franchise. And I think the arrow has switched to a question mark for the Vikings.
Man. Well, and it was over like an 18 or 16 game resume. Darnold looks like a good choice for next year, but now the last 2 games, it's really, man.
Do you think he should have gone to Daniel? Do you think he should have gone to Daniel Jones coming out of the halftime?
Ooh, great question.
I thought that, and they kept panning over to him. I'm like, put him in. Darnold. He had 6 sacks by the half.
Yeah.
And he was already seeing ghosts. To your point, he was turtling way too early, double, triple clutching, holding the ball. It became kind of clear. I'm assuming Vikings fans were seeing this. I don't know Vikings fans. Did you think Jones could have gone in? It was clear he was seeing ghosts at that point and wasn't seeing the defense well, turtling. Then he started just missing easy passes. And I thought, you're really going to go to the end of the game with this guy? Like, it's just tough. How much worse could it get with Jones? It couldn't get any worse.
But he's the one that got you there. He's played really well for so many games.
All I thought of was Nick Saban and taking Hurts out and putting Tua in and winning the national championship and having the balls to do it. And I thought, what? And he had no proof Tua could do that. Tua wasn't even starting, right? It's not like
he was a 5-star.
No, but
he had really good practices and stuff. So if Jones has been lighting it up at practice and he didn't put him in, then I'm with you.
Right. But Jones has been a starter, has won a playoff game.
So if he's looked good at practice, then that would have been
I just thought
that would have been my first question. If I was
couldn't possibly be worse than what we're seeing.
True. But that would have been my first question in the post-game thing. I would have been like, what has Jones looked like at practice this week? And if he said anything like from average or above, and then the next question would have been like, did you ever think about putting him in?
Well, he's not. Yeah, I'm sure the answer would just be, this is our guy, and we're going to go with him.
Maybe, but I mean, that's why you start with the Jones, how he did in practice before, because then if he says like he was lights out, and be like, you ever thought about doing it? He's like, no, but Darnold's our guy. And then you're like, all right. But
either way, that just looked like a losing recipe coming out in the second half. Like, give him one drive. I don't know. Bad. Anyways. That's too bad. What a hell of a season that ended really bad, like 2 games in a row.
Yeah, and they mentioned that in the broadcast too, right? Like it's extra tough when you win that many games and then it's over so fast.
And you could argue he lost the 2 games that I mean, obviously all the games mattered, but at some point with that record, they were in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So for a while, they knew they were in the playoffs. Then the first game that really not the first, but one of the big games that mattered was the home field advantage and bye got killed. And then in the playoffs, get killed again. And it was even worse. Did they even get 10 points in either game?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, it's awful. Yeah. And there's only so much their defense could do. The Vikings have a good defense, but what are they going to do when it's just 3 and out, going backwards on offense? Like, what do you get? 82 something, 80 yards and sacks? Yeah. Like, it is terrible.
It's a lot.
Anyways, we're kind of belaboring this. Good for the Rams. Vikings, that's too bad. That's a crappy way to end a really good season. And now you're stuck with question marks of what to do with this quarterback position. Mm-hmm. All right. I think that's good for that. Come back to the channel for our preview and picks of, I guess this is the divisional round coming up.
Divisional round.
Yeah. And we are going to do a show previewing and picking the college national championship game.
So based on so if you had the 2 college games last week versus the NFL playoffs this weekend, who would you Saturday versus Sunday?
Oh, right. Who wins? We had 1 competitive game here and a bunch of blowouts.
Yeah, for me, it's the Saturday again. It's the college.
College I guess. This was ugly.
Yeah.
I mean, at least if we had some more competitive games here, it would have been.
Just the Tampa Washington one was interesting.
I just needed a couple more of those.
There was another, I can't remember which one it was, but one of the NFL games, it became unwatchable at one point when there's so many penalties, so many stoppages, and it was just went on forever. And it's like that stuff.
Yeah, I think college takes it. Yeah. All right, we'll catch you guys later.